thank you, just seriously, for sharing your story. And
I moved out of my house when I was like 11,
wait, you moved out when you were 11?
and yeah,
Holy
I couldn't
crap,
live
man.
at.
I'm here with my friend Monster Package today. We're going to talk about men's mental health, our experiences with it, what we learned, what we've had to unlearn, and all that comes with it. I hope you guys are doing all right, but if you're not, that's all right. Let's talk about men's mental health.
Ready for another mission held.
You bet your bottom Democratic dollar, you goddamn liberating son of a... All right, I'm sorry. What's up, man? So, I don't know what it was like for you growing up personally, man, but for me growing up, if you were a man, you pretty much were just not allowed to show lack. Like, you were never allowed to show your hands when you felt weak. Like, even saying that you needed help as a man was viewed as a sign of weakness. So I learned very incorrectly growing up that doing it all by yourself was a sign of strength, and that accomplishing it all alone was a sign of strength. I had to learn the hard way growing up in my early 20s that is not at all the way to do it. And when I mean the hard way, I mean like I had to lose some really good people in my life that I wish I had the wisdom at the time to not lose them and to value them and to ask for their help.
For me, it was like growing up, I had to grow up pretty young, pretty quick.
Yep.
Had to, like help my mom keep a roof over her head, like talking to the landlord and trying to get him to keep us in that place,
Yeah.
And for me, that was like my mom was the only one that I had growing up because my dad left when I was young.
Same, bro. My parents divorced when I was like 5 or 6.
I was a few years younger than that.
Wow.
So the only memory I have of my dad is when I was like little, like one of my first memories. It was pretty difficult for me anyway, because I had my 2 younger brothers and I also had to take care of them when my mom was off at work, and it's not easy or fair to a young man that, has to take care of his siblings instead of hanging out with his friends and
right. Playing outside, playing with dirt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, man. Seriously, it's so interesting what happens to us when we have to grow up so young and we're told, okay, it's time to be a big boy now, and it's time to do the adult thing, whatever that is, whether it be, for some people, if they're like you, older siblings, being responsible was kind of how we felt love to our parents. At least that's how I personally felt growing up. It was like if I wasn't being useful, I don't know if I felt loved.
Yeah, like if you weren't helping mom do laundry or clean the house or something, because you're the only other person that's responsible, or in quote, responsible enough to take care of that kind of stuff.
And, something that I've dealt with a lot in my life is that it's easier for me to feel useful than it is for me to feel loved because of that. My parents were divorced. For me, I was around 5, and because of that, just seeing all the hardship and the trauma in my household so young and experiencing some trauma myself, I didn't really understand what it meant to just be imaginative and to be a child. I kind of had to relearn that in my later years because I was so concerned on surviving and understanding, whether or not the adult that I was around was safe or not. Oh, dang! But man, like, it's so hard to even find a place in the modern day world where we're allowed to even process these thoughts, right? Like, it's like even the world will tell you, well, you need to be useful, you need to be making this amount of money and doing these amount of things to be ambitious enough to be considered a man. Like, we hear so much conversation about what makes a high value man, and all these other people determining the value of a man through his work. But I personally just disagree completely with the idea that a man is valuable when he provides value. I really don't agree with that at all, because if that was true, then I would have never found my faith in God. I'd be waiting for me to do something good enough for God to care about me, as far as I'm concerned and my understanding of God, I don't think that's how his love works for me, that he waits for me to do something for him and then he loves me. I think it's quite the opposite. There's this verse that says it is not by works so that no one may boast. It's actually by faith through grace from God that he loves us. And it feels a lot of times like that concept for men is vacant in the world. Every single bullshit podcast we listen to is convincing us to start a Fortune 500 company by 5 a.m. or we're worthless. You know what I mean? Like, like, hey bro, if you don't have $1 million in your bank account by the time you're 40, then you're just a piece of shit, or whatever they say. And I just feel like it couldn't be further from the truth. For me, I'm radically concerned with the child behind the man. You know, the child that wanted to show something to their parents and was like, hey, look at this is cool, and was ignored. That's what I'm concerned with. Because to me, you know, a child can't build up a Fortune 500 and have all of the partners that he wants, but yet is he still valuable? Is he still worth a life if he's not producing something? Absolutely. But it's hard for us to get there as men because, my goodness, so often we're concerned with what we're providing to give us value rather than understanding our intrinsic value in and of itself already being there. And I don't know, man, like a lot of my role models growing up were like hardened men, like men that just seemed to be so solid, like they never needed anything from nobody. You know, they did whatever they wanted. The older I get, the more I realize how weak that actually is. My bad, bro. I'll reinforce it. I'm over here yapping. But what was it like for you, like growing up in your adult years? Like, how did you come to your understanding of men's mental health where it is today?
Like I was saying, for me, I had to grow up pretty quick. I moved out of my house when I was like 11 and started living with friends and all that.
Wait, you moved out when you were 11?
And yeah.
Holy
I couldn't
crap,
live
dude.
at home with my mom anymore because she would have weird guys coming over and doing drugs or what have you. But it didn't make it any better because I moved in with a buddy, and his parents also did some pretty hard drugs, and I was trying to help him take care of his siblings also.
At 11 years old. Wow,
Yeah.
brother. Dude, no wonder you're so good at hell divers. You've been hell diving since you were like 8 years old, bro. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I had a priest one time when I was dip netting. Usually when I go dip netting on the Kasilof Beach, this church group that comes out and brings like bouncy castles and stuff for the kids that come. And when I was about I think I was under 10 years old, I had a priest tell me that I should write a life story because I've been through a lot and had to overcome a lot of challenges to become who I am today.
Wow, brother. I'm just honestly so humbled by your story, man, because this is exactly what I mean. There's so many men out there with your exact story, if not the exact one, the exact same feelings of abandonment, of rejection, of uncertainty, of just awful adults not doing their job, and the lack of freedom to talk about it in a space that says, hey, like, I'm sorry that happened to you, which, by the way, bro, I'm sorry that happened to you, because like
It's all good, man. It makes me who I am today because like today I get to wake up next to a beautiful woman and, you know, breathe fresh air and kick a little dirt around and get callus on my hands because all that stuff that taught me growing up was to, you know, not really put any thought into well, obviously put thought into other people, but not to give too much thought to them, you know, in a negative way.
yeah.
Because people, like other people can, like all the bad things that they can put you through, it's just like it can toughen you up, but at the same time make you have a soft spot for the people that have also go through the same exact thing.
Facts. And I think with as many things that divide us as men, we can be connected by our pain. We can be connected by our loss, and not just the pain of the loss, but the strength it took to overcome it. Like, bro, I guarantee you there's probably someone literally that's going to listen to this that will hear your story and be like, I had no idea other people had the same upbringing as me. And just through that relation,
same or worse,
or worse,
like they had it harder.
Yeah. And you know what, man, I'm so glad we ended up doing this, bro. This is exactly what needed to happen today. Cause like I bet you don't even realize how strong and amazing you are for getting through that and being where you are and having the mindset that you have. There's 1,000 other places you could have gone, 1,000 other bottles you could have gotten to the bottom of before you got to that conclusion that you're at right now. And to be standing in that place of conviction to say, you know what, I'm not even going to hold it against them. That is key, bro. Because, you know, it took me years to overcome my bitterness. I became bitter, honestly, like because of the trauma that I experienced and the lack of love that I felt. I was a very emotionally abandoned child. Like I tell people, the characters in movies were my friends growing up. And nobody should have to experience that kind of loneliness, which is why I feel such a passion these days to not let people feel alone in anything. Depression, anxiety, overthinking, whatever it is. Like even just listening, bro. Like there's so many people who only listen to the point of their own content and satisfaction. Like I'll hang on to every word that a brother is saying to me because I know I may be the only person that's really listening. Did we just both put down a stratagem? Would you look at that? Great minds blow up shit alike. Thank you, just seriously, for sharing your story, and I'm definitely here to listen for more of that on and off this video here. But
yeah, no, it's definitely a topic that needs to be brought up more, because I see a lot of, like, you know, I go on TikTok every now and again, and I see a lot of like videos about how like just like how, you know, like there'll be this podcast of a guy sitting there asking a woman, what is a woman? And then they can't answer, and then the woman's like, well, a man, and then we're like, that's not what we're talking about. Women want to bring up the fact that men are just like chauvinist pigs or whatever. Like that's not how it is. Like nope. I open doors for my lady every day.
Good man. I do the same thing.
How I feel.
Even when I'm mad at her, especially when I'm mad at her, I do it because I hear God's voice in the back of my head. It's like, are you only doing it when it's good for you?
She can make me upset, and I'll still go open that door for her because I know that I care for her. And
good man. You know what my grandpa would say when he was alive? The bravest thing a man can do is love a woman with his whole heart, because there's no guarantee that she'll love you back. That's why it's brave. I'm so glad you said that, bro, and brought that up. Keep going.
Yeah, especially when like you got those. So I'm gonna speak from a past experience from my ex. I asked her out. I was nervous, and we went out for a while, and it was almost around a year, and then she just decided that she didn't care for me anymore. She had some drug dealers come over with like coke and all sorts of crap, and
I'm sorry, brother.
I was trying to like keep her out of that kind of stuff, but you know, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make it.
That's right. Especially if they're used to drinking poison.
Yep.
You get a taste for it after a while. You know, I think for you too, like, and I don't mean to speak on your situation here, but I found in my own personal journey that growing up helping adults and being put in that position so early, that when we're adults, we kind of only feel a sense of intimacy when we're helping those in crisis. And it took me a long time to get out of that space, because I was, you know, in relationships with some very toxic people, but I myself was also toxic as well. And it was really the only way that I felt a sense of familiarity with the past that was long gone in my childhood. Because my childhood was, you know, I remember at 8 years old giving advice to my brother's divorced friend, which is not very traditional. and I don't think any 8-year-old should be giving it sound advice, but somehow I was, you know. And I think that as we get older, we find a solace in helping others, but don't have a system on how to help ourselves because we were just always doing the helping. I'm very thankful and grateful to have the lady that I have with me today, but yeah, man, for the longest time, I was involved with people that probably needed a whole lot more than my help to get along, but in my effort to love them, I was hurt and abandoned and rejected, and then it kind of skewed my own view on that love. Hey, nice, man. You know, I was gonna go up there, but now I don't think I need to go up there. I'm so glad we're doing this, man, seriously. It's so hard to, like, when you grow up around people who don't really steward love well, and for those who are watching this video that don't know what that means, it means people that don't represent love well. So maybe they're your parent or they're your partner, and they didn't necessarily play that role the way that they're supposed to. I think for me, it's like, I started to disbelieve the idea of real love. And I also started to disbelieve the idea that I was deserving of it at all. What was it like for you finding love? How did you come to accept that love eventually?
Try to trust again, you know, like you go through that first devastating, you know, heartbreak after your first, and you just gotta try to trust that next person to be who you hope for them to be, you know.
That's an amazing point. It's an amazing point.
Like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna just come up to someone and, you know, in quote, fall in love with them because they're attractive. You know, it has
Right.
to do with more than the physical appearance. It has to be more about their mental state and their personality, how they view the world compared to you and all that. Like it's a bunch of different things, kind of like the butterfly effect, how we were talking about a minute ago, how like
Sorry, bro.
we probably wouldn't be doing this if my girlfriend hadn't bought me this game, so we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now if
Right.
it wasn't for her. Or if I wasn't born, we probably wouldn't have, like, you know, like certain things in the world or something. Like it just leads up to one thing after another.
It does, man, and it's hard to say sometimes, but it's like, imagine if both of us didn't go through the hell that we did as kids, because maybe there's someone listening to this who's literally being freed from the illusion that they can't feel pain and they can't be weak for a moment, you know, and that they can't find love. Like, I'm someone who, like I said, I'm very grateful to wake up to a beautiful lady every day with my full health. You know, I told her this morning, I said, babe, I'm the richest man in the world because I have you. You know, I don't need really anything else. And I think that a lot of people just want to get to that point where they have the girl, but they're treating it as an object. They're treating the relationship and the love and the woman as an object. And I think that definitely comes from a culture that's soaked in pornography and consumerism, and a culture that's soaked in give me. Like you were talking about those podcasts where women will be like, man, all men are pigs. And then there's even those podcasts where men will get in your ear and say, well, all women are the same. And I just want to grab both of them by their lapels and be like, first of all, shut up. Second of all, each person is different. Each person comes from a walk of life, and each person at a time was a child begging for love from the adults around them. Maybe they received it, and maybe they didn't. But that reception or rejection is what is shaping that human that's standing in front of you today. And a lot of people love to objectify men and women together and generalize them in a big little group where they can all just push all of their problems onto, and that's just not the case. It falls onto us to understand our own pain. It falls onto us to understand how to navigate that pain and how to navigate that trust to be able to actually grow an environment that fosters love. Like, I hear so many of my friends included that complain about their lack of love in their life. And I have to ask him, I'm like, bro, have you looked in the mirror and told yourself you love yourself lately? And if the answer is no, I don't want to hear it. Because how is any woman gonna come along and love what you hate every day? That's a heavy ask. That's a heavy ask. Like, hey, babe, can you come over here and love me? But I hate myself, so can you do that for me, though? Like, no.
Yeah, right.
And then how is any love going to grow or emanate from a place of hate for yourself? It's not. It's going to actually... The seeds will grow into the tree grows from the seeds that are planted. So if you're planted in self-hate for yourself, you're planted in regret, you're planted in guilt, well, guess what? That's going to grow into a big old oak tree of guilt one day. we got to root ourselves in love, and love is scary. It's terrifying, actually, and it's uncertain, you know. But the only way that it's steadfast is if we make it our foundation and not a result of the good works that we do to try to get it.
Yeah, that's one of the other things, that you can't truly be giving yourself to someone and be working hard in that relationship if you're not using communication. Communication is one of the number one things in any relationship.
Amen, bro. Yeah,
you have to.
How is she gonna know how you're feeling?
You have to talk.
You have to. Even if it's uncomfortable. And that's something that a lot of us men could learn, the art of embarrassment. A lot of us are afraid. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, growing up in elementary school and stuff, my teachers would I think it was one of the reasons that caused growing up, I would shut down. I wouldn't talk. You couldn't get me to say anything. I wouldn't cooperate. And teachers, instead of trying to be nice and calm and try to talk to me, they would lock me in a padded room until I was finally either calmed down enough or wanting to come out to, you know. Like,
Jeez,
they
your
locked me
teachers
in
would
there.
lock you in the room?
Yeah.
Jeez, bro.
I remember it was over one time that I just had change in my pocket. My teacher told me to like take my change or give my teacher the change, and I was like, no, it's my money. And then they took the change and then put me in that room for like 30 minutes.
Jeez, bro. Seriously, wow. That, man, you know what I hate about that is that a lot of times, and it still happens to this day, adults will just exercise their authority so that they can have a calming sense of control over something in their life. And a lot of times the things that they have control over is children, and it's really pathetic the ways that they use that authority to just belittle children. Like this is why I love Jesus, man, honestly. And I'm so serious when I say this, because Jesus doesn't just love children, he gives them a voice to speak and to be heard. It actually, oh man, there's this verse, and I honestly don't know it. I'll have to like look it up, but it's literally a verse that says, the God who sees us. Like, God is not a God who does not relate to us in our pain. He literally sees us in it. And for you to be locked away in a room, and when you're locked in that room, he's not only mourning the lack of proper authority in your life from adults, but he's mourning for you the rejection and the love that you're supposed to be feeling in that moment. Like, had these adults had their own sense of like awareness themselves, they would have not just seen a child in need of control, they would have seen a child in need of love and said, hey, are you okay? What's going on, bud? You need anything right now? Like those are the questions that Jesus asks me when I'm not feeling okay, is what do you need right now? What is your heart telling you? And that falls into communication, because a lot of times we want to become our feelings as men. Even as much as we're not allowed to talk about them, our feelings, we let our feelings overcome us a lot. And it's hard to find a sense of peace in those moments when we feel rejection and we kind of feel locked in a room in our adult life in a kind of metaphorical way, where we just feel trapped behind our depression. We feel trapped behind our uncertainty and the necessity to come up with an answer that we fall silent. I was the kid that never smiled in pictures. You know, hey, let's smile, let's gather for the picture, and I just would not smile. Oh, come on, why are you never smiling? And I would just go silent. There's a lot of times I missed out on a lot of family functions because I just didn't feel comfortable around adults, nor did I even feel comfortable telling the adults why I wasn't comfortable, because they would either laugh it off or ignore it altogether. And it's just so important, man. It's so important that we not only create the space to talk about our feelings, but create the understanding for them as well, and to be able to communicate them to not only each other as brothers, but also to our loved ones and the woman that we're expecting to love us. Like, I say this tenderly, but a lot of us men, man, we be expecting the most out of these women. We be expecting the world out of these women, yet we're not even telling them, we're not letting them into the world of our own head, you know? And I love what you said about communication. It's like, you got to talk about it, man. If you're feeling insecure, you got to talk about it. But you don't yell about it, don't cry about it, talk about it. And talk about it when you have processed it enough to bring it to this woman and say, honey, I've been feeling off today. I've been feeling uncertain about myself, and I've been feeling uncertain about how to tell you that. I feel weak, I feel anguish, and I just wanted to tell you that. Any good woman will take what you've given to her in faith and multiply it. That's literally what God created us to do. And
Have you seen the show Resident Alien yet?
I have not. What is that?
So it's on a few things. You can watch it on Peacock right now with all the new episodes. The show is about this alien, and he comes to Earth and he becomes more human through the feelings and connection with the humans on Earth.
I'll have to check that out, man.
People are the strongest thing we have. Our strongest weapon is connection with one another.
Amen, dude. The world is held together. It truly is held together by the love and compassion of very few people.
Now we're using so much teamwork and like unspoken
brotherhood and coordination.
Like, we don't even have to say anything to each other to know what to do.
Exactly. And
like, that's how strong like the human bond is, that I can like. This is the other thing too, is that like I have a friend that I can basically think, like, I have a thought pop into my head of what he's gonna do before he even stands up and does it. And it's happened like multiple times. Like,
You know,
I don't even say anything to him, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yo, brother Mikey, can you go get me some water? And then he just stands up without me saying a word.
you want some
and
water?
Grabs me a cup of water. Yeah. And he just straight up comes up and gives me some water. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. And he's like, oh, I thought you did. And I was like, no, I was thinking about it, but I didn't say anything.
You know, Jesus himself literally says, no greater love is this than he who lays down his life for his brothers. Or excuse me, he who lays down his life for his friends. It's literally what came out of the mouth of Jesus himself. He said that that's the greatest love you can know. And one of my favorite stories in the Bible is Moses, who led the Hebrews out of Egypt from slavery. There's a story where God tells him, listen, Moses, you lift up your hands, and as long as those hands are raised up, the Hebrews are going to win in their battle. They're going to win and they won't die. But if you let those hands down, you're going to start losing. Moses was holding them up for a good amount of time, but then he started getting tired. He had a brother, Aaron, who was sent with him by God, because he literally, when he was called by God, he told him, I'm not confident enough to speak. And God's like, all right, fine. I'll give you your brother to go with you and he'll help you. So, you know, a couple years down the road, you know, a couple callings later, Aaron's with him through all of this. And even through this specific moment, you know, he's lifting his arms up. But then he gets tired. So it says that he had to ask Aaron for help, so that when he couldn't lift his arms up, Aaron would hold them up for him. And how indicative is that of what it means to be brothers and to be friends truly in this world? That sometimes we got to hold up our hands and we can't even do it for ourselves. We can do it for each other. So to anybody watching this video, especially you men, sorry ladies, this one's for the boys, reach out, drop a comment. We're here for you as much as we can be, because if you have experienced loneliness, you've experienced depression, you've experienced anxiety, listen, bro, you're not alone. We can dive into that hell together. Be kind to yourself, be excellent to one another, and we'll see you guys in the next video. And make sure you subscribe to Monster Package on YouTube. This is my very good friend who just spur of the moment decided to have this very vulnerable conversation. Thanks for joining me today, brother. Much love, man.
No problem, man.